Pledge allegiance to start the meeting. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Julie, we'll do roll call.
Greg Claypool?
Here.
Emily Sayers? Here. Sarah Fryler?
Here.
James Ford? Here. Laura Carter?
Here.
Eagle?
Here.
Well, first on our agenda, we're going to talk about procurement policy. I have like 20 minutes each, so we're not here all night, so we'll try to keep it somewhere in there, I think, if we can. So first in the packet was Sarah had a couple of options, and then Mr. Braun had his. He did tweak, based on all our conversation, he tweaked his, and I marked his at the top so you will know the difference. So if y'all want to, I'm sure y'all have time to read over it, and if you want to start talking about it.
Well, I can introduce what I put together. It's pretty simple. I hope you all had a chance to take a look at it since I did send it out early. And I put together these two options to help us think about not just the policy itself, but how we want to manage and update it over time. So just to give you a quick synopsis, option A shows is adding the policy in the code. So it gives us more control, but it also is a little harder to update over time. Option B is the policy outside of the code. It gives us a little more flexibility and easier updates. So I just want to call out my whole sort of goal, the key point of these is it's about long-term governance, not just the policy we have today. And as you look over it and as we talk about it, I want to just ask you a couple questions to think about. One is, who maintains and updates the policy, and how often should it be reviewed? So just think about that as we consider these options.
And I'll just make a tiny pitch for the codification option, which we've had this discussion twice now, so I think everybody's familiar with the distinction. So I like it being in the code. I like it being structured in a evergreen way so that it's referencing back to the KRS. So every time the KRS changes, our code automatically changes without having to go in and correct it every time, which is the current situation. And that I think is just more effective, and it's also prudent because sometimes people don't realize the KRS has changed. So this is an automatic update. And I really like it being in the code because I like people to be able to reference it through our codification system, which is annually updated by American Legal, which we pay for that service, and they can do it online, or they can request it in an open records too. But the ease of access online I like. So that's option A.
I also want to point out that both options A and B actually do that. They both actually codify.
I think they both do have evergreen aspects, which are just.
Well, hear me out. They codify the KRS, so that is included in both of those. The key difference between A and B is how we actually update our policy. So if we follow option A and update the policy so that the policy becomes part of our code and appears in the appendix, then every time we change it, we have to come back and create a new ordinance and have two readings, and then we have to codify it, which means there's a little cost to that, right? And if we did option B, we actually would adopt by municipal order, like adopt the actual policy. And we could, well, let me make it super clear first. It would make it easier for us to continue to update the policy without having to pay for codification as part of, and go through two readings for an ordinance. But I think both are completely valid options. I think with A, or I know with A, you would have, residents would have access to the codified version, and they'd have access to the version that we, it's the same version, but have it in the code and also find it on the website, because we'd be saying that both would be required.
Right.
With option B, it would just be posted on the website. It would not be in the code.
And just so, I know council knows this, but for anybody listening, this is about the manner in which we make our procurement policy, how we adopt it and make it available. It's not about the actual essence of the policy, which is not under discussion here.
Correct.
However, if at some point we had need to or wanted to alter that policy, I like the idea of 2 readings because that gives residents more opportunity to participate, hear what's going on, because I think a procurement policy is an important thing. I mean, it empowers department heads and the mayor I think people need to know how that works. So just a thought.
And the cost you're referring to would be to have it codified again?
Yes, so it is
Well,
updated
your
with American
codification
Legal.
fee is fixed. You're paying that whether you have, 10 ordinances or 200, that's fixed. But if you had to change your, procurement code via ordinance, then you would have to publish it and that would be a cost. So, what is the cost of publishing now, Julie?
I usually publish ordinances now in a summary form,
Mm-hmm.
$60.
Okay.
The budget ordinance I publish in full, so people can really look at that, but yes, usually it's not really that much.
And I know that KLC and Senator McDaniel continue to work on giving us more cost-efficient options for publication because, newspapers are not what they once were. They're just not. I mean, it used to be everybody was reading 1 of 2 papers, but now the Enquirer, I won't comment on that, but it is not what it once was. So electronic publication is, I think, a suitable medium.
Just clarification, maybe Mr. Brown can answer. When I first was thinking of this, I was thinking, okay, we'd have to be changing because KRS changes. But the way this is written, if KRS changes, it's covered in the way this is written.
Correct. Again, there's 2 parts of this.
For the
One is
code.
adopting the
Right.
uniform procurement code for matters outside of your personal policies. I've written it in a way that it indicates you've adopted pursuant to ordinance, and anytime the ordinance changes, for example, when the amount increases, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, it's automatic, but I have to
Right.
go back and strike it out, changing the number. Yes.
Okay.
I think it's also worth noting that both of these two options that I presented, which are different from Mr. Braun's options, let's be clear about that. There are basically 3 options that we're presented with here tonight. One of the things that I want to say about at least the 2, I guess probably all 3 options, is that they are all, I think, vastly better than what we're doing today. And I think that's important to note. And I'm sorry, I would say that I would like to focus on the 2 options that I presented first, maybe, or something like that, because I want to make sure that it's clear what the differences are between, and I know this is like kind of who's on first, it's complicated, but the 2 options that I presented both create an option in just 1 chapter. Mr. Braun has created something that exists in 2 separate chapters, and so far, and you can speak to this if you'd like, I don't know that there's a reason that we should have to do that. It hasn't been clear to me. So if you want to talk on that, like, is it necessary, or could we do it all in chapter 34, as I've suggested?
I assume you can probably do it all in 1 chapter, but in my research of the ordinances, the titles you give them, the section numbers, it made more sense to put them in separate, because one has to do with a policy, and the other one has to do with your internal policy, therefore I separate them out by chapter. You want to incorporate them in one, it's fine with me.
I think it's simpler to do it all in one. And I think it's to have everything, I mean, this is all internal policy, is how I see it. So if we're including that codification item in Chapter 34 as well, you know, the KRS model. From what I've seen and looking at other cities do it that way. And I'm sure there's a variety, but
So option B allows us to make any changes quicker than option A because it's municipal order versus an ordinance.
yes, that is true.
My understanding is that everyone wanted the procurement, the internal procurement attached on a code so that it's published and accessible from anyone looking online. To me, that would be easier to find in a separate chapter, and I liked Mr. Braun's, but it's up to you guys, but I did like that, only because I think it's easier to find, and it's separated, and it's not, I find that to be a little confusing, that it's all, I'm still confused. It's all in there, so if you change a procurement, your internal, you have to go back and do a new ordinance.
So, okay, I'll break it down for you. Option A of the options that I've presented, it does both of those things. It includes codification, it includes the KRS adoption along with the codification version. So it's putting the policy in the appendix. And that, it also calls for it to be published both in the code and also online. So it's doing the same thing, but it's all in one location in Chapter 34. So to me, that seems easier. If I were a resident or one of us, I could go find everything I need to know about procurement in one location. Option B does essentially the same things, but it's the adoption process that's different. So the policy itself will not be in the code, but it would be published online. So it's still accessible that way. It's also still putting it all in one chapter. Again, everything is easy to find in just one location. And then I think there are a couple of other things I want to point out. One is that Mr. Braun's version puts a lot more of the onus on everything. It's for the mayor. It's set up for the mayor to make these decisions. What I've proposed, and we do it by ordinance, so that makes it something that we approve, but the whole policy itself is being, essentially, there's a lot of things here that are about things that are already in the policy that we don't need to restate, in my opinion, in our code, because it'll be covered by the policy itself. So that's one item. A second thing that's also important to note is that our policy, if we do adopt our policy into the code, it's going to take us a little more time before we actually, have the first and second reading now, because we'll have to review the policy. We'll want to make sure that our policy is what we want it to be before we actually adopt it. Does that make sense? Do you want me to say that in a different way?
We need not do that in any case.
Do what?
Make sure that it covers what it's supposed to cover.
Well, we would have to, if we do option B, so who's on first? Okay, if we follow option B, then it's a little bit more flexible because we wouldn't have to finalize the policy along with what we're doing by ordinance. So the ordinance and the policy would both have to be reviewed so that we're adopting the policy that we intend to adopt. If we want more time to review the policy, we could adopt option B, we could follow option B and adopt by municipal order so we wouldn't have to review the policy now.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that anything that is adopted by ordinance empowers council.
Yes.
So to say that's not a correct statement. If it's adopted by ordinance, council is empowered, so just remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we've had this discussion a lot. I do think, I don't have any problem with consolidating option A into one chapter, that's fine. I like that, I like it being published both in our codification and on the website. That's great, and I think, Mr. Brown, you already made that change here. So I'm good with that, and I think it is my basic philosophy on ordinances is they should be simple, clean, and flexible. They should not be complicated. Because I found the more complicated and the more entangled they become, the more often they have to be changed. They're not workable. They don't respond to, needs that are put before you. So I think this is pretty simple. I think it's a good thing that we're addressing it because, as I think you said, Sarah, both of these are improvements over our current situation. And I think they improve our transparency too. I have no problem with our procurement policy as it stands. I think it's good. And I think by adopting the, what is it called, the Kentucky Uniform, the Kentucky Model Procurement Code, we are in compliance with the state. And the state has experts that review these things, which we appreciate.
See, I read it here, 34.04 and A, amendment. When you do an amendment to anything, you're going to be taking it back, a whole new ordinance. Am I
That's right. Every time you change the policy.
Right,
That
so
is
you
not
have to adopt
necessarily
it.
a bad thing. That is a thing that, that's a first and a second, that's maximum opportunity for your residents to participate and hear what's going on. So I don't view that as a
prefer
bad
that
thing.
method.
That's,
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
that's not quite the way I wrote it, though.
That's the way I wrote it.
That's hers. That's what.
The way I wrote it was, you wanted to take your policy, your internal policy, and make it part of your code.
Correct.
So we're creating that by ordinance, indicating that it's now in your code, and you find it in the appendix. If you want to make changes in the future, you do it by municipal order.
Okay,
If those
fine.
changes are made, you send them to the code service, like you said, they get automatically incorporated into the changes that are made on a once-a-year basis when they update the code at the single cost. So I don't understand, you don't have to complicate them over additional ordinances. And in all honesty, you're barely ever going to change your internal policy. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Right, especially when
You already
we,
have a copy. When's the last time you changed anything to it?
I'll tell you, every time the KRS changes, which
Yeah.
Well, that's
is
covered now.
repaired by this
Yeah.
format. Right. And I don't think we had previously adopted the Kentucky Model Procurement Code, am I correct?
Correct, you were still under the
That's
general
correct.
bid requirements.
Yeah, which, that's a positive thing for us and gives us a lot of
Yeah.
guidance.
And sincerely, I feel like I started this conversation because of, the conversation that I had with Julie, and I just wanted to make it work, and I had hoped that Mr. Braun would, work directly with me to help draft this.
But I would have been glad to do that, except it was contrary to the instructions I was given by the mayor who runs the city on that behalf. For me to change it the way you wanted would be counterproductive to what I wrote. So when you called me out the last meeting, this is your opportunity to see if council wants to make changes. This is your opportunity to discuss it further. If you give me marching orders, I'll change it at that point.
Okay, well, what I want to make sure is, what I would like us to do is to have some sort of idea of what we want Mr. Braun to go forward with. And, I'm very flexible here. I do not think that the mayor should be, in between me and the attorney.
I was not in between. Let me get that
That's what we
clear.
just heard.
No, he went back and forth with you, and I said,
There was no back and forth.
we're going to
with
make
me.
it simple, we're going to make it simple. I said, we want it online, and so
Yes.
he did it with 2 chapters. And one is for the code, and the other is so that we can have the procurement policy behind there, and that was the reason I said that. I found yours to be confusing, and I just thought it's a lot more in there than, I think combining them is, that's just my opinion, you all do what you want, but I think combining them is going to be harder for a resident to find, because they're, it might be easy for us to find, because we know where the code is, we know what to look up, but if you're just any resident wanting to look something up, a procurement policy, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
I actually disagree with that statement, because I think if we have our policy and our KRS, because we have, essentially, with Mr. Braun's version, we're separating our policy adoption from the KRS procurement adoption, like adopting that procurement code. Does that make sense?
Say it again.
So
Yes, it again.
Mr. Braun's version separates two things. It separates adopting the Kentucky Model Procurement Code. That's in Chapter 116, per what he's put together. And separately, in Chapter 34, he adopts our policy. To me, it seems like those things should be together, because they are both about procurement. So it makes sense that,
Right.
if I was a resident, I would want to be able to look up procurement and see what we do, all in one
And
place.
And you would be able to, under either of these options. Option A gives you the advantage, and I do want to note, we're over 20 minutes now on this topic. It gives you, I think we all agree that we want the model procurement code. I hope we all agree that we want it codified so that residents can access it. We all agree we want it on the website. I think option A accomplishes all those things more efficiently. So that's just my point of view. Do you want to do a sense of council, Mayor, or what do you want to do here?
Let Mr. Braun know. I took
I'm
it
for option
because
A.
I think he's our attorney, and I
You guys
went,
got to tell me what you want now.
I think the simpler the better,
I
my
agree.
personal opinion.
I'm good with A, especially with one chapter out.
I still, what bothers me more than anything is I think you guys need to understand, you separated it out. The model procurement code is for project development. It's the way your developers and your city engineer and stuff take projects forward. That's what that's for. The other one is your internal policy, how you operate internally within the city.
Which
How do you
is
use
why
your
it
credit
makes
cards?
sense
How
to
do you
have
use
it in
vehicles?
two places.
Yeah,
To me, that
they're
doesn't make
separate and
sense.
distinct to me.
That doesn't.
and honestly, I agree wholeheartedly with our legal representation. That's what he's done for many, many years, and we're trying to accomplish some things and not have it this way and this way, because that's what, over years and years, what I've seen that I've been on council in here, that it's just some things are not done correctly. And it's because someone weighed in and they said, well, this looks better, or that looks better, and it's easier. But basically, we want it to be easier to find, but done by our legal representation.
I would like that too, but I would like to be able to speak with Mr. Braun directly.
Emily's trying to ask a
Yes.
question.
Yeah, go.
I just from, this is how my brain works, so I don't know the chapters. So chapter 1, chapter 34 is how we, like RFP stuff, or how we.
Right.
It
how
doesn't
we-
exist yet. It's a new chapter.
Okay, so how we would do RFPs and bids and all those sorts of things. So I get that. And then the other one is buying police cars.
Julie wants a new computer.
Julie needs a new computer.
It's how much can an officer spend on his own credit card? How much?
Yeah.
But without getting my okay, they could spend $500 with, no, you're not coming to me, if it gets over
So these would,
2,000.
that would set, okay.
Right.
I just saying it out loud helps.
Yeah.
Helps me understand.
Right, and each of you have the
Yeah.
procurement policy, which is, like you said, is an internal thing, so.
So, and for my simplistic questions, they're in separate chapters in your ordinance simply because one is for external parties and one is for internal use.
You already had a chapter 34, it was easy for me to incorporate the internal into that chapter. The other one I created because you didn't have it existing at all, so I just found a place to put it that fit in with your titles and your sections.
But you're correct in what you said.
And 34 is a new chapter. It's not, it does not
Oh,
exist.
sorry, I misspoke there.
No, I'm just correcting the record there.
My feeling is to go with the attorney. I mean, he's practicing law, he's done this, this ain't his first rodeo. He works for Newport, and that's a bigger area than we got. I mean, it's so complicated, no disrespect, Sarah, but I think, once again, the simpler the better. And he's got the legal background, not that you do or don't get me wrong, but I'm just looking at that. So that's my opinion.
As council members, all 6 of us, I hope you're listening, all 6 of us are supposed to be able to communicate directly with our city attorney to work on
I
legislation.
don't
Okay, I'm
agree
going to
with- I
stop
don't
you all
agree with
right
that.
now. I want you all 6 to weigh in to Mr. Braun on an email and tell him what you want, and let's see what comes out of that for our business meeting, okay?
Okay.
And now we're going to move on to the
Okay, good.
the next order. Rules of meetings.
So may I speak on this for a minute? Mayor, are you good with that?
I'm sorry.
May I speak on this for
Sure.
a minute? So I brought this to the attention of council, trying to address some, I think, deficiencies that we have. I took the ordinance that Mr. Braun had done, and I tried to incorporate into it the comments that council had made when we discussed the ordinance. Specifically, the definition of quorum complies with the KRS definition of quorum, etc. So I hope you had a chance to read through it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. I added to the ordinance things that I felt were important for what happened and resulted in litigation for us. So I have added in here, and you can read them. I hope you have read them for yourself, that a member shall not be excused for attendance, unless there's a good and valid reason, that you have a health emergency, a family emergency, a work emergency. If a council member has to miss or leave a meeting for such a good and valid reason, the member must notify the mayor in advance. Now that is a very reasonable requirement, just so the mayor has a sense of, am I going to have a quorum, or somebody's got to leave. It's clear, hey, I got to go, my baby just fell down the stairs, got to go. I also added in here that no council member shall demand the floor or exit the meeting while a vote is being taken. I tried to work in the concerns the public expressed, so that if a person wishes to address council, they need to advise the city clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. That is about as generous as you can get time-wise. And I did spend many days reading all of our sister cities' ordinances and many across the state, and I tried to be as generous as possible, but with deference to having order. For example, we had a situation a couple meetings ago where a man said he signed up. Well, he signed up while the meeting was going on. There was no way the clerk could know that. She's up here addressing the meeting, and then he was offended when he wasn't called on, but it was because we had no knowledge of it. So if you require that it happen before the meeting begins, that gives the clerk and the mayor opportunity to know who wants to speak. I used many ordinances, including the KRS, just basic rules of courtesy on how we address each other and how we conduct ourselves in a meeting, not disruptive or boisterous, etc. We put in here the option for a hybrid meeting, which, I don't know that we'll have those. I find them personally kind of difficult, but the option would be in there for everyone. And there was one other thing I wanted to point out, or a couple other things. Public comments regarding personnel issues or neighborhood disputes should not be permitted in this venue. I mean, you don't want one neighbor to come in and be complaining about their next door neighbor. That's just not, this is not the appropriate venue for that to happen. And I think that's probably pretty much it, but anybody who has questions, I'm happy to address them. And and we adopt Robert's Rules of Order. Everybody, basically everyone in state and local government and not just Kentucky, uses Robert's Rules of Order. And it's an old but established way of keeping order in a meeting.
I think that's probably true, a version of it, but do they put it in their ordinances?
Many do, yeah, most do.
I've known two cities I've talked to, Jeff Schreiber in Edgewood and Diane Wortman in Bromley, and they do use modified rules, Robert's rules, but it's not anywhere in their policy written.
Many
Because
cities.
it's very rigid.
Yeah, but
They don't do
you
it in
don't have
Frankfurt.
to be totally rigid with it, you know, I mean, the mayor has discretion
I mean,
with that,
I
and we
think what
can,
you've outlined here is a good,
yeah.
I don't know if you need to say Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, I
Or
did not.
simplified, maybe,
Yeah, you
something
can,
like
yeah,
that.
and
you
we
can
could
use
define what
simplified,
that
that's
means.
totally fine. I just want people to have an idea that that is what's governing the process. And change that wording any way you want. I like putting it in our ordinance so you don't have to go and repeat everything that's in Robert's Rules in your procedure ordinance. It's kind of that evergreen concept you're going to reference back to an established thing.
Because I agree with Laura. I would like, if we could define simplistic, I was in Frankfurt recently, they don't use Robert's Rules of Order like to the letter.
Not to, nobody
There's no
uses it
way.
to the
There,
letter.
it's just
Yeah.
not possible.
But if you say it,
Yeah.
then you better be doing
Well,
it.
how would you suggest phrasing that to make it permissive?
I'm not entirely sure. I think something, I immediately want to put like an adjective, right? Like simplistic, but then how do you define simplistic? What I define as simplistic could be very different than how Steve or Laura see
What
that.
if you said something
Well,
like,
if you use simplified, and it's not like we're gonna get the book out and quote it word for word. That's my opinion.
If we follow it, we might.
well, you don't want it to be a weapon, and you know, when I was reading other ordinances, process can be a weapon, and when it's a weapon, it's destructive. If you go and read, for example, the City of Independence's ordinance, and they specifically say in there that if it looks like process is being used as a weapon, you know, the mayor's empowered to just shut it all down. And you're right, Robert's Rules can definitely be treated that way. So,
How about the city adopts Robert's Rules of Order as a guide?
that's perfect, Laura, that's
I
good.
like
As a guide, that's very good,
I like
yeah.
that.
As a guide,
Just like
that's
it-
very good.
That way we don't have to define, it's just like it's a framework of structure, we're not married.
Exactly, and that's all you want. You just want some, you know, reference point for people, that you need a person.
Maybe put for general use after it as well.
Okay, as a guide for general
General
use.
use.
You know?
That's great. Okay.
Do we need to specify which version?
I didn't specify it because the versions change.
Why don't we say the most current?
Most current.
Yeah, most current. The city adopts the most current. And I think it really only changes so they can sell more books, but I'm not sure. I brought my
100%
book
believe
with
that.
me, and I really couldn't find a difference. I'm sure, there's no red line version,
It was the
so,
comma on page 17.
yeah, something like that, I think so.
I think using the most recent version captures if it changes in the future.
Sounds good.
You could put in there as amended from time to time, which would then
Okay,
incorporate
sure.
future reference, or future
Yeah.
volumes.
How do we know when we're supposed to use it or not?
Well, I think Laura's term there is really good. It's a guide. It's, you know, we know that we need a first and a
That's pretty
second.
much what we do right now.
It is what we do right now.
But isn't that also determined by KRS and just general parliamentary procedure that's set by KRS standards? I don't
No,
think.
not everything. I mean, you use the general rules of Robert Order to conduct meetings. That's what you mean by general. That's not all incorporated into the KRS. They don't sit there and tell you that you have to do this and this and this. That's why the rules exist.
But a first and a second is not something that has to be determined by Robert's rules. That's required.
No, that's
We're
required,
talking
yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
rules for other things, the proper decorum in meetings and the procedures you're going to incorporate, and et cetera.
So how do we know when something is too, like, becomes too process focused? Who determines that? How do we decide when we're using it as a guide versus a
Well,
reference?
could you give us an example?
Yes, like if I don't know, take a look at your book and say, there's something that happens on council and you say, I think we should do this and this is what Robert's Rules says about it. One person could say, well, we don't have to follow Robert's Rules to the letter. And another person could say, well, but it's in there, so I'm using it as a
I
guide.
guess that's where a motion and a second helps you, though, because ultimately, council will determine that. For example, something like the agenda, the mayor sets the agenda, but council can amend the agenda with a majority vote. So a lot of these process things are over hundreds of years been worked out, and I don't want to create a situation where people are afraid to engage in debate and conversation and actually learn something because, we're using process as a weapon. Process is supposed to be a tool that makes things more clear and helps us accomplish things, not obstruct things, helps us accomplish good things for our residents.
But those provisions are already set forward. Like when you get your legal handbook from KLC, it describes the kinds of parliamentary procedures that are required by the state.
Okay,
You know,
great.
so-
So we're already subject to those. So
That's
we're adding a
correct.
few on there.
Well,
We're
but-
adding that we're going to treat each other with courtesy, and we're adding that when you come to a meeting, unless you have an emergency, you stay at the meeting. That if you have to leave a meeting, and that does happen, I understand, there should be a valid reason, not just, hey, I'm out of here. There should be a valid reason, because we're here to do the business of the city, not to engage in a gab fest. We're here to do the business of the city. So I think that is a fair thing. You come to the meeting, you stay at the meeting unless there's a problem. If you have to leave a meeting, you advise the mayor, this is my, you don't have to say what your problem is, but you say, I have to leave, so the mayor knows.
But Pam, we're talking about Robert's Rules of Order, and I thought we were talking about that
I
adoption.
think we've moved on from that, actually. I think
Did we?
I did. I thought we said we were
thought we
going to
agreed.
use them as a guide and not get stuck in them as a morass.
I think I was still
I
asking.
think it was a
about
follow-up question. I agree, I like Laura's use of the term guide, but my fear is that it can still very much, like you were saying, Pam, be weaponized for somebody's gain. Like ultimately, if they
Do
wanted
you want
to,
to say general parliamentary procedure? Does that make people happier? 'Cause that
I'm
can
not
be
happy or
weaponized
sad either
too,
way. I
but,
just-
what do you think?
we don't
I
think it's
don't
gonna be here
care.
in the future.
I just want our
That's what I was
meetings to
suggesting.
be
I
orderly.
talked about Edgewood and Bromley, they don't have that.
But Independence and a ton of others do. So, are we going to put them on a scale and say we like this city better? It's good to look at them all, but each city has slightly different variations in their procedure ordinances. But you know what I found? Almost every city does have one. And I do think we need to have one.
Do we think that we need letter D? Is that what you're asking, is do we need it, or?
Well, I think you need something. You need to say you either adopt Robert's Rules of Order. If you think they're too scary, then we should say the city will use general parliamentary procedure for the conduct of all businesses. Personally, I think that's kind of vague. I'm not sure it solves the problem that you're raising, Sarah, but if you feel better about it, fine. That's fine with me. Parliamentary procedure is basically Robert's Rules of Order.
I don't think it needs to say anything. because
I think it
it's
does
already-
need to say something.
Okay, I don't think it's necessary.
I think we all have some control as far as, instead of like, they have some procedure set in policy.
What do you recommend, Mr. Braun?
I agree with you. The greater majority of cities incorporated Robert's Rules of Order as their parliamentary procedure in conducting their meetings. It's a standardized across the country usage.
Right.
I think the language that you're trying to change it to, but incorporating, indicating that you use those rules is perfectly valid and fine.
Yeah, I like Laura's language. Let's use it as
I
a
do
guide
too.
and
It's
for,
good.
for general use. The rest of this is pretty basic, just setting out the order of business. I did include in there, even though this is already done for us, but I sort of made it more a rule that the agenda will be mailed or delivered to the council members prior to the meeting.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
For letter C, I don't think we need to define forum because that's already defined in KRS. So I'm not sure that we need that. I guess it's more of a statement, sorry. And then,
Why would we not define it?
because KRS already defines what a
Well,
quorum is. We
KRS
don't,
defines lots of things.
Well, I think
Why
Grant,
not define it?
well, I think putting everything, the whole reason this started out a while back for a meeting ordinance was to have it all in one place in an ordinance form that residents can see or anyone that looked it up, because if you have to go to look at the KRS for anything, then that's just another source to look it up. So incorporating it all in one place, I think, is a good thing.
our code actually already covers that. It cites KRS, I didn't look specifically to see where it is, but it already exists. in
Our
our
meeting
code.
ordinance?
In our code, which when we have an ordinance, we use that to create.
What is
code.
the negative of saying that a majority of the members of city council constitute a quorum? You objected to the language that Mr. Braun originally had, so I put in this language, which is directly out of the KRS. I mean,
I think it's different from the KRS, but it's not wrong, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just duplicative.
I don't think it's harmful, and it's like
See, the issue with calling it
nine
out.
words.
I just encourage you to go look at what the
Okay,
KRS
but
is.
even so, I don't see the problem with it right here.
I just don't think it's necessary.
Why not, why not put it in there just in case? Then we got something to go on in case like
Yeah.
wishy
Well, then,
washy.
should we just use the exact same language as the KRS?
That's fine.
Why don't we do that? I think that's what we
Well,
currently do in our
Let's
current
look it up and see
code.
what it is.
It's already, that's how it is in our current code.
My phone changed KRS to IRS, like I care how the
You want to go
IRS
there?
defines.
I also just wonder, Pam, I know I shared the ordinance that I wrote last October, so I was just curious if you took anything that I wrote in that into
I
consideration.
went through your whole ordinance, and I have my notes here. Just give me 1 second, because I would like to find this if I can. KRS 83A060, a majority of the members of the board constitutes a quorum. I mean,
Does it say board?
it does, but,
And you should-
we call ourselves the council. That's 83A060, so you can look it up there.
Regarding, this is off the subject, if you want to finish what we're talking about. But regarding 6A, any person wishing to address the council, I know that the planning commission uses a system where there's a sign-up sheet outside this door. And then I would envision the way to do that would be for Julie to go out and collect it right before the,
Somebody would have
Right.
to, because otherwise we get
and
the
that way you
problem.
have,
Right,
everybody that would petition to speak would be on there and they couldn't be added later. So-
Correct.
I did
because-
hang one out there a couple of times.
But we have to have somebody collects it before the meeting starts, because otherwise we have the problem that occurred.
Right, so maybe we need to put that under
The
6A.
city clerk will
That's
collect
fine.
prior to meeting start.
Is there any way on that issue as far as that, if the meeting could be posted at least one day in advance, is that even possible that people could still sign up with Julie so we kind of know how many people wants to come and address the council, also what they want to address council about?
Greg, the meeting's posted 3 days ahead, 72 hours.
Do you
Yeah, I
need
kind of
it-
like that, because, if it gets a time sheet here, like, we could be discussing something here, and all of a sudden, people might want to go out there, or they have to sign up by a certain time, but still would be kind of knows what they're wanting to talk about, so we get a little idea to do some homework maybe, if it's
Well,
tree or trolley park.
If we
or
put the sign up out there and then we collect it as we come in we start the meeting, then,
And I'm not sure we even need to put that in there?
What they
Maybe
wanna
we
talk
do,
about,
maybe
you
we do, yeah.
I just really like the idea of a sign up because it just feels, as a resident, that just like feels like I have that option.
Right.
If
Well, I think that's a
I think
great
we're all
idea,
good
sign
on
up.
that. We
Yeah.
just don't want a situation where the mayor doesn't know who signed up because she's conducting the meeting and people are signing up as it goes on. I think
Well,
it's-
yeah, like right before
I think
cutting,
this is.
then that's
yeah,
fair.
I think that's what we want to do, and this
Yeah.
is very, very generous. If you read our sister cities, almost all of them require at least 3 days minimum, this, you know. I took all that out, tried to go with the most generous but still orderly
Yeah.
option.
You sign up, it is collected at $5.50.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a council, I'll go pick it up. I'm
I'll
fine
pick it
with
up, I don't
that.
care.
Yeah, it's no
I'm
problem.
closest to
Steve's got it.
Yeah,
Steve's
Steve's right there,
Pam,
yeah.
were you going to talk about your comparison, or you had some
I
notes
don't
to
really
say?
think a comparison, I don't want to talk about that. There is one thing Sarah had in her ordinance. She asked me what I liked, and in section that you have entitled, Section 1, and then you have Section 32.36, subsection D. And that relates to, in this ordinance, subsection 8. A and B, okay? So I like putting in here the language that Sarah says, to the extent practicable, all meetings of council, whether virtual or in person, should be streamed and recorded to allow for public observation. We do that, we have done that since I've been on council. We started that. Prior to that, we did not have this
Was that for COVID?
availability.
Was that put in place for COVID?
No, we started this back in
Before that.
2010, because we wanted residents to have greater
Oh, I'm sorry, I
access to
guess
what was going
I
on.
misread that. I thought
But,
you were
but I
talking
think
about
this
virtual.
would be good to add either in 8A or B, I don't know, wherever you think it fits. Because a future council could change that. And I like the language that it says to the extent practicable, because it's possible the TVNK might say, we're not going to do this anymore. You know, because it's really kind of a public service that they do it. And if they weren't doing it, I'm not sure we currently have the technology to do it ourselves.
To do a virtual, to do like record and,
To stream. I mean, we probably could do it, but I
They
think
could.
they do a lot better job.
well, they do a great job, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems
So-
like it should go between B and C.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So in our Park Hill Code, a quorum of council, I'm going to read the definition that we have in our current code, is a majority of the council shall constitute a quorum, and a vote of a majority of a quorum shall be sufficient to take action unless otherwise provided by law. And that is a direct quote of KRS 83A.060.
So we
Six.
say here, a majority of the members of city council shall constitute a quorum.
And that's listed in, it's number 32.54 in our current code. So if we are not writing that again, this is, what we have here is 32.36. So if this exists in our code already in 32.54, we probably don't need that letter C.
They don't conflict. There's no
Yeah, I
conflict
don't see no
between the
reason
two things
not
at
to
all.
have it here.
It'd be different if one was saying, two people can be a quorum, but it's not. So they don't conflict.
But do you think a resident is going to have to go look in two different places and,
No,
okay.
no, not at all. Same thing. But let's be clear on where we want to insert this streaming language. So do you think in 8,
In 8?
yeah, where do you think it should go in?
Wait, where's 8? Are you
So
saying?
it's way back there. 8 talks about, proper notice and all that, compliance with Chapter 61, the Open Meetings Act. Might fit there, or maybe we just put it in 32.36 and add it as,
I think I already said, I thought it
Between
should
B
be
and
between
C.
B and C.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, how about if we just add it on to B? Does that work?
I mean, I think it's, It's a little bit different.
Lost, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I like
Where's
this
it-
language.
Yes, but where's
and-
it going?
Oh, well, we're talking about putting it,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I was looking at 8, B, and C, and I wasn't seeing.
Is there a difference, like, is anything different in your A and B than what is currently in our code? Is it different?
I can't answer that right here. I don't really have our current code in front of us, so I can't answer it.
Because when I designed this other
I mean,
version,
the-
I had it so that it was basically building on what was already there.
Well, that's what this is doing too.
Well, A just reiterates what, the time change and things that we,
But all of that is in our code now, yeah.
Yeah, I
but
think-
again, it's bringing it all to
I think it
one
could be
spot.
added on to subsection B, because I think it, yeah.
Are you talking about number 8?
No, just forget 8. We're talking about adding this language, and I'll write this up and circulate it to everybody.
Language from 32, 36.
This one
subsection
right
B.
here, from Sarah's to
From my D,
B.
32.36D.
And then insert it.
I guess what happened to, because the part of D that is not underlined is already existing. So do we not want that?
No, it should be.
No, it's in there. I mean, no, we do want that, and it's in there.
Where is it?
I believe that is in 8A.
Oh, it is
The
8.
proper notice provided in advance, yeah, it's right there.
Okay, so that's why you were
Yeah,
proposing.
that's why I was thinking about putting that there.
The underlined and.
Well, maybe that does make sense.
I think it kind of does.
Let's do that.
Okay, I'll put it in 8A then.
So her section 32.36D is going to go,
Yeah, and I'll type it up and I'll circulate it to everybody, just in case we're, we want to make sure we're comfortable with it.
I do think, so one thing about looking at 8B, where it states that you may instead attend and participate by means of video teleconference, we do not currently have the ability to do that. So I don't think we can include that.
Okay, now, hold on. I thought we did. I thought we could put the person up here on the screen.
We don't have any way to, there's no speaker system for us to be able to communicate
Oh,
with
there's
them.
not?
No, we don't
Can we
have
put
that.
in the budget, because that's some tech we should
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what
absolutely
we
have.
need? We need one of
I
those
agree.
things
Yeah.
called
I've thought
an
that for a long
owl.
time.
Yeah,
Yes,
put it right there.
exactly.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
an owl.
I love an owl.
Okay.
I have one in my conference
Let's
room.
put the owl in the budget, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's add that, but we do need an owl, but I would like to leave this in here.
I think it's great if we do it.
Okay.
I just hadn't included it
Yeah.
because I didn't. I
All
knew we
right, let me
couldn't.
make a note of that. I didn't realize
When we
that.
move to the budget discussion, we can add owl to the.
Yeah, we'll add owl.
Agreed.
And then I did want to say, I don't even know how to do this, but the Kentucky law requires that the person participating digitally has to be visible to everybody,
And heard.
Seen and heard.
seen and heard.
That's right.
So I guess technically, even without our owl, we could see them and hear them, we
They
can't
couldn't.
talk to them.
Right.
So, we need the owl, I agree.
I mean,
can't
with the
talk to
owl,
them.
it feels
You can't
like
talk to them?
they're there.
No.
Not currently, we can.
Because there's
I mean, if you had the owl.
If you have the owl, you
Okay.
can,
Yeah, it's truly just like you're in the room. I mean,
Okay.
it's
It's
not
like a
as good,
video
but it's pretty
conference,
close. It's
like-
really good.
Doing business.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think there's another system, but the one I'm familiar with is.
Well, we'll look into that. Do you want to move on to
I do, I'm
Yeah.
good. Does
I don't wanna
anybody
keep
have
you all
further
here
comments? Yeah.
later than
Because
I
we're
said?
beyond 20 minutes.
Let me just indicate something. This was a prime example, going back to what you were trying to do, Sarah. I was instructed to create an ordinance where you were going to have an order of business and how meetings are to be conducted. I did it as a draft. The draft was circulated. Pam took it on her own accord to use that draft and remanipulate it the way she wanted to present to council. She didn't ask my further input. If she had, it would have been for opinions only. this is the proper procedure to follow, and if you want to make changes, I'll make changes. But in this case, Sarah already has, Pam already has a draft, and I'm assuming that's the one we're going to operate from.
I hope so, and I will
And she
add
shared.
Sarah's language into 8A, and I'll circulate it to you all again before the next meeting, and hopefully we could do a first reading at the next meeting.
And I want to remind you that I actually did that in October. So it isn't because I didn't actually participate the way that you just described. It's just that we didn't get anywhere.
Okay.
Everybody have time to look over the budget? I know it's in its preliminary stage, but I met with all the departments. So I've gotten a bunch of numbers nailed down, and Julie and I went over some larger items and some income items that we'll tweak later, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what we're bringing in and what we're going to be spending. So modest raises are in there. Some things stayed a lot the same. I did increase a couple of the budget lines. Fire department asked for a little bit larger for part-time salaries because he was going to try to recruit a few more part-time people. So that's one on theirs. And then I think Dan asked for a little bit more part-time, so I gave him a little bit larger for part-time help. So any other questions or input?
Well,
So this thing you want to purchase, what would that be?
I think they're about $800.
I'm not sure.
I'll
They're
let me
not
see
cheap.
if I can find it, but I can certainly get it to you
Well, we
by
could-
tomorrow. And we do have a finance committee meeting tomorrow night for anybody who wants to attend.
Is it on the calendar? Okay. I feel like I check it every day. I didn't see it yet.
Dr. Doherty called me this morning. He said, I thought we'd have a meeting, and I looked online and said, it's there. He refreshed his computer, he's on, now I see it. So
Okay.
I put it on this, but whenever Pam told me they were going to be there.
I know if I get a Microsoft update, it messes with everything you have on there. I have to undo and redo.
Okay, well I was going to ask a question of when the next Financial Oversight Committee meeting would be, so that answers that. I also wanted to ask when we're
I'm
going to.
sorry, Sarah, but I just looked up how much is an alpha. A non-native owl costs about $4,000.
Maybe you need a little more specific about that search.
But I can get a Eurasian eagle owl for only $3,000.
Yeah, we don't have to go non-native.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
not have to
Okay.
be that fancy. Take a native owl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I was going to ask
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
Is-
it's so crazy.
That's hilarious.
is when we would get to review the capital improvement plan, because that was not included with the budget. And I feel like I probably ask about this every year. I know there are some things that have been discussed in Financial Oversight Committee meetings. I think we need to be able to see that as part of
Right,
the
I'm-
budget
I
discussion.
just talked to Jay today about when can I get some estimates, so I'm hoping to have them soon. He said he's working hard on it, so.
Estimates for,
For some projects we want to do that would involve the capital improvements, so. And actually for roads, there's a couple of roads that we're talking about.
So are the capital improvements outlined currently? All the ones we want to do?
They're not on that 5-year plan, but in the capital here, all we did is put what we were going to move, budgeted for, usually I move 80 to 90 and 150, because that was what we talked about if we do a shelter. Finance committee said to just allow for 100, even though the first estimate was only like 75.
But we'll see,
So-
because, who knows? But what the Financial Oversight Committee discussed, Emily, at our last meeting, was putting aside $100,000 toward a lavatory and shelter in Colorado.
And I do have some of those on the capital expenditure part, so.
so the transfer, I guess I still want to understand, our total that we list here for capital improvements for next year is $150,000. but does that include that idea or not?
Right, if we move 150, it covers cruiser outfitting, and then cruiser cameras, which I just got an estimate on that, that's 28. It's actually less than that, but I just rounded up. I try to be worse on expense and less on income. Park equipment, or let's see, the shelter, park shelter, 100,000. So the total expenses are 143 is my current estimate.
Does that include the regular 80,000 that we usually transfer, or are we not?
No, like on the 5-year plan, I had 80 and then 90, and I think it jumped to 100 in like the 4th year, but I'll go back and work on that and change it to the 150.
I guess I want to
Earlier.
see it itemized, because I don't know what all these
It will be.
80 to
Okay.
90 to,
Well,
I don't know what
I'll
it
get you
means.
I'll finish up the 5-year plan.
One thing that we discussed in the Financial Oversight Committee meeting, our last one, we adopted a plan of getting one police cruiser a year so that our cruisers are always up to date and we circulate through the fleet and we don't end up with a massive need at once. I think the mayor discussed this at our last meeting, that we're going to buy 2 because we can get this big cost savings, and then we will not buy one next year. So that'll be reflected in the
Right,
numbers
and
there
that-
too.
Because we moved that 50 to cover, and so that won't be on the next budget. There's no car on the next budget. Yeah, I'll get more details for you, and I'll send that out, and I'm sure we're going to be putting together more numbers pretty much weekly at this point.
And I'll
as
bring
things
this to
come
the
in.
meeting, Emily, on the AI, and
Thank
I'll
you.
share this with everybody. Julie, did you get a copy of this? Could you make copies for the whole committee tomorrow so I can distribute this to them? Thank you. And then I'll try and get a price on that OWL system, a non-feathered system by tomorrow night, so we can
Not the animal variety.
yeah.
Can I ask, I don't know what page this is, right above city newsletter and communications and below tax bill software, advertising, what are we advertising?
That's for when we publish
Ordinance.
ordinances and.
Oh, okay.
Emily, is
And
this
if you
through
had, like-
Gateway then? The
It can
numbers?
be. It can
Okay,
be.
because it says on the back, and I
Yeah,
wasn't-
it's just
okay.
this Gateway Services,
Okay.
this area, the top 3 and 3 counties below, but it's a statewide training, so.
Yeah, I've been looking into some education for spam and scam on their emails, because I get it all the time in my work email. But it's really, really
Show that.
rampant right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Julie just got a request today, and they had filled out a form that said my name on it, that I told her to pay $144,000 for a cloud.
Well,
Some
and
cloud,
that's-
I'm like,
right away.
no.
It's also why I think a lot of this AI education is pretty
Outlets,
critical,
thank you.
because scams are getting more sophisticated
Sounds
all the
like worst
time.
case too.
And the smarter they get, the easier it'll be to scam somebody. So I think we need to educate ourselves.
Yeah,
That's
with the-
one of a
with
million reasons.
Duplicating people's voices and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's
easy.
creepy.
Yeah, my recent training on that was, it's a synthetic buyer. So they can send you an application for a loan, and they've scammed somebody out of their important information. But now they found on Google your face, so they got your face now, and they put that on an ID. So they can buy a house somewhere in your name, and you don't even know you're buying it. So it's pretty creepy. So those kind of things, I think we need
Yeah, they're getting
education.
more and more
So.
complicated.
I think that's why I'm advocating for us to, one, like, I think it's fiscally responsible for us to learn about AI and the things that we can use it to reduce costs in other areas, because I think those are significant. But I think also to protect ourselves in the city, because it is becoming more and more sophisticated every day. We need to understand that. And like I said last time, like, I get that it's an emotional reaction. This is like the industrial revolution of our time. It is very scary, but just saying you don't like it or I'm not going to mess with it, that's not a thing.
Right.
That's just like saying, well, that car thing is a fad, it'll pass.
Because it's out there.
Yeah.
So you're estimating the cost would be about $7,000 for the city?
And I'm not, yeah, it's just an estimate
Estimate.
based on all of those pieces that I
But you
included.
don't have to do all the pieces
No.
at once.
Right.
No,
And-
just some suggestions.
At least that's how I saw it.
Yeah, based on what we discussed, I just put a few pieces together on what we thought was important. I'm not married to any or all of them. I think the education piece is critical for all of us. And then, maybe some simple tools to start, not all of it. I think, that'd be like eating the whole elephant at once. I don't think we need to do
Yeah, I
that.
think we need to work into it a little. When you say for city staff, how many people were, like when we, training and implementation, how many people are you?
I did all of us. I did Chief Stanley, Chief Rigney, Dan, Julie, yeah,
Okay.
Am I missing, this is all I have. Am I missing a piece?
you are.
Do I have that?
I don't think I made enough copies. I think I made
Well,
like 10 of one and then.
I'll print off, I'll print off what you sent.
Thank you.
And then,
Yeah,
my
and
fault.
there's this one
That's
too.
my, yeah, you don't have the right one. I'm sorry, I thought I gave them to you,
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
I don't have one either.
okay. Julie and I don't have, we'll print it off.
Well,
Okay.
here,
I've got this one if you want this one.
No, I made-
you
Black
have
bar.
mine.
I don't have
I
that
have,
one either.
I have.
You won't
I
have
gave
I
Julie
don't have
mine,
it.
she
I
can,
have
Oh, that's in an email.
I didn't print enough.
This is all I have.
I got
This
one
is all I
of
have.
each, 6 will be on there.
All right, I'm good.
Just make sure Julie has all of it.
I gave her mine. Yeah.
This is what I gave you all last week. This is
Right.
just, I tweaked
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
There's another page that you have that I don't have?
Yeah, and I'll send,
I
I'll send them all out
this is
digitally
2
to
pages
everyone
and
if
this
that'd
is
be helpful.
1.
Yeah,
Double
I just
sided.
have the one.
And so what is, I'm sorry, I want to understand,
You're fine.
what is $7,000?
Can I see your copy? Nancy?
Sure.
This is the one.
No problem.
Didn't you just email it also?
Yes.
That's what.
Yeah, it's in your
It's in
email
your
too.
Like today, when?
Yeah,
A couple
today.
days ago and again today.
Yeah, I got it today.
Oh, is it the thing that I commented on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Like
I've
right
seen
now.
it, okay.
Same thing.
I didn't know if it was the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
All right. Okay,
And
I'll
I'm,
just-
I'm
I'll
not,
look at
I'm
that.
good.
I'm not married to all of these. I think if I had to pick what I felt like was really critical, it's the training and implementation support, having that like, one, us gaining our understanding and like using the community college system as a consultative service on how to implement appropriately.
Is
Yeah,
Mr.
I would
Braun
think so,
included
too,
in
so.
that staff? Because I would think it'd be important for him to get that training too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, we'll
so
look
if
at
you
that.
were making a recommendation, would it be fair for me to say tomorrow night that that is your chief recommendation if you were?
I think training and implementation support, and I think if I had to make one other recommendation, it would be either a productivity tool or the resident service pilot, like that kind of chatbot idea where
And
people could
I
ask
gave,
questions.
how much are they?
The chatbot, this was just an estimate, because I think we can build a lot of this ourselves through the partnerships I've defined. It'd be about $1,000. The training and implementation support is the biggest cost.
That
So
was
these are all
37.90.
estimates. They may come in lower.
And Emily, just so I get a sense of how much time of staff does that require,
To complete,
the training?
I think it's 4 hours long.
Okay.
It's not incredibly long, but I think, having somebody come and talk to us about how to like,
So they would come to
Implement.
us and do the training?
well, the training is fully online, so
Okay.
it's async. You can do it at your own pace. But part of it is having what they call a game day, where they come and like apply the concepts of things that we
I'm
learn.
excited about that.
Yeah. So it's like, we get all this information, and then what do we do with it?
Right.
Right.
And it's like, for a small city, what is appropriate? How does Julie implement it into her job? How do we implement it into what we do? How does Dan use it? How does Chief Rigney use it, et cetera? And we can define what that looks like, but I think that is the model that they have.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you all.
Thank you.